It started with the drip, slow, rhythmic, like the ticking of a clock, echoing beneath the floorboards of her childhood home. Drip, drip, drip. Every night at 3:17 a.m. When Madison Pryor moved back in to take care of her dying mother, she thought the hardest part would be watching her fade. But nothing could prepare her for the sound that only she could hear, or the memories it stirred. Memories that her mind had buried deep. Memories so dark they fractured her reality. By the time she uncovered the truth, her hands were shaking. Her breath caught in her throat. And the last thing she remembered before everything went black was the sound of something being dragged across the basement floor. Madison Pryor hadn't set foot in her mother's house in 15 years. Not since the incident, the one no one spoke of, the one everyone around town seemed to forget with unsettling ease. The house still stood at the edge of Beech Hollow, North Carolina, surrounded by the same crooked pine trees and thick, suffocating air. It smelled like mildew and mothballs, like time had folded in on itself. As she stepped inside, the floor creaked loud, familiar, almost eager, like it recognized her weight. Her mother's voice called from the back room, paper-thin and shaking. "Maddie?" "Hey?" Sight of her mother broke her. Once a stern, imposing woman, Helen Pryor now looked like parchment eyes, sunken, skin translucent. Madison forced a smile, sitting at the foot of the hospital bed they'd set up in what used to be the den. "The machines beeped softly. "You came," Helen whispered. "I promised I would." The first few days passed quietly. Madison kept herself busy changing sheets, managing pills, dealing with hospice visits. But at night, something happened. The sound started drip at first. She thought it was the sink. She checked every faucet. Then the radiator. Nothing drip always. At 3:17 a.m., exactly she began to write it down. Night 1. Night 2. By night 4, she couldn't sleep. On night 5, she went down to the basement. The stairs groaned beneath her. The old pull-string light flickered, casting long shadows over cobwebbed furniture and rusted boxes. It was cold, colder than it should have been for spring. And the dripping? Louder, closer. She followed the sound to a far corner, beneath the floorboards under the stairs. There was nothing there, just dust and concrete. But her ears rang with it. She crouched, pressing her palm to the floor. It was wet. When she told her mother the next morning, Helen's eyes widened, not in surprise, but in terror. "You didn't open it, did you?" She rasped. "Open what?" "The crawl space, beneath the stairs." "There is no crawl space. It's sealed shut concrete." Helen turned her face to the wall. "Good," she whispered. "Leave it that way. And don't go down there again." Madison laughed nervously, trying to push it out of her mind. But that night, the dripping returned, louder, more insistent, and this time it was followed by something else. A whisper, muffled, a child's voice. "Maddie, Maddie, come play." She woke the next morning with dirt under her fingernails and a faint scrape on her palm. She didn't remember. Leaving her bed, Madison stood in front of the basement door the next afternoon, holding a steaming mug of black coffee like it might ward off the cold feeling snaking through her spine. She hadn't told anyone about the whisper, about the voice, about how it said her name in that soft, lisping tone that somehow felt familiar. She told herself it was stress, lack of sleep. Auditory hallucinations weren't uncommon in people under extreme psychological strain. She'd read about it. She even remembered the term, hypnagogic hallucinations, sensory experiences that occur at the edge of sleep. That's all it was. That had to be it. Except for the dirt under her nails. Except for the scratch on her palm. She couldn't remember going downstairs. Couldn't remember dreaming. Couldn't remember anything after turning off the lamp and pulling the covers up to her chin. And now she stood in front of that door, heart pounding, coffee forgotten. The house was silent. Her mother was napping, locked in that fog of morphine and failing memory. With a shaking hand, Madison reached for the doorknob. Click. The door swung open. The basement was colder today, still and airless, like a vacuum. She descended slowly, one step at a time, until her bare feet met the concrete floor. She walked to the far corner, the place where the sound came from. The dripping had stopped, but something was different. Wall, it had shifted. No, that didn't make sense. Concrete doesn't shift. But the pattern of cracks, the texture, there was now a faint outline she hadn't noticed before. A seam, forming a square. A door? Madison dropped to her knees. The concrete was crumbling at the edges, soft like plaster. She scratched at it. It flaked away too easily. Beneath it, wood. A trapdoor, sealed under a thin layer of cement. She sat back, heart racing. Who would seal off a crawl space like that? She ran her fingers along the groove, and something sharp pricked her skin. She pulled back, blood welling from a small cut on her thumb. Maddie. The voice came again, right behind her. She turned, swinging the flashlight, but no one was there. Just shadows, boxes, silence. When she emerged from the basement, her mother was screaming. "Maddie!" Helen cried, thrashing against the sheets. "You opened it, didn't you? You opened it." "I told you not to." "I didn't open anything." Madison snapped, startled. "I just looked." "What are you talking about?" Helen went pale, eyes rolling back. She began to sob. "You don't remember, do you? You don't remember what you did? What I did?" Helen looked away. "You were just a little girl," she whispered. "You didn't understand. I told the sheriff it wasn't your fault." Madison felt the ground tilt under her feet. "What are you talking about?" Her mother didn't answer, just stared out the window, whimpering like a child. That night, Madison locked her bedroom door, took a sleeping pill, buried herself under the covers. But at 3:17 a.m., the whisper came again, louder this time, closer. "Maddie, why did you forget me?" And when she woke up, there was mud on her feet, and the basement door was wide open. By morning, Madison was unraveling. She paced the kitchen barefoot, phone in hand, half a cup of untouched coffee cooling on the counter. The old house groaned around her wood, swelling with humidity, wind pushing against the eaves, but every creak now sounded intentional, alive, like the house was breathing with her, or waiting for her. She hadn't told anyone what was happening. Not the hospice nurse, not the neighbors, not the therapist she'd seen in college who said her childhood trauma was resolved. No one, because how do you explain the impossible without sounding insane? Her search history now read like something out of a conspiracy forum. Auditory hallucinations, childhood trauma, repressed memory, children's voices, schizophrenia, night terrors, PTSD, floorboard water, leak hallucination, or ghost. The rabbit hole swallowed her whole. She was losing time. She would blink and find herself in a different room. She'd walk into the bathroom and forget why she was there. Yesterday, she poured a glass of water and just stared at it for 10 minutes. She only realized when her mother's bell rang from the den. And the whispering, it wasn't just at night anymore. That afternoon, while she changed her mother's bedsheets, Helen grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. "Don't let him." "In, Maddie." Madison froze. "Who?" Her mother's eyes didn't blink. "The boy in the walls." Madison forced a laugh, trying to shake it off. "Mom." "That's just the morphine talking." Helen yanked her closer. "He's not dead. You think he is, but he's not." Madison pulled away, heart thudding. "Who's not dead?" Helen's expression collapsed. Her lips trembled. But she didn't speak again, just turned her face to the pillow, a single tear rolling down her cheek. That night, Madison didn't sleep. She sat on the floor of her childhood bedroom, knees hugged to her chest, staring at the closet door. Something about that closet had always scared her. She'd had nightmares, flashes of a little boy crouched inside it, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. But those were dreams, weren't they? At 3:17 a.m., it began again. Drip, drip, drip. She held her breath, didn't move. Then the whisper right at her ear. "Why did you stop looking?" She screamed. Through the lamp, the light shattered, and for a moment, she swore she saw something move in the corner. Small, fast, like a child crawling on all fours. Then it was gone. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, she went into town. To the county records office. "I need old property. Maps," she told the clerk. "For 1313 Rose Hollow Lane." The woman blinked at her. "That's the Pryor place." Madison nodded. The woman hesitated, then leaned closer. "You related to Helen Pryor?" "I'm her daughter." A long pause. Then, "You sure you want to dig into that place?" Madison stiffened. "Why?" The woman pursed her lips, then printed the records. There were maps going back to 1940. Madison flipped through them until her fingers went numb. In the 1998 file, there was a detail she'd never seen before. A room, a small, square room beneath. The basement stairs, labeled storm shelter, cold storage, sealed. She pointed at it. "This room? Is it still there?" The woman looked at her. "No, honey. That room was filled in with concrete. After what happened with the boy." Madison's blood went cold. "What boy?" But the woman only shook her head. "Some things don't stay buried, sweetheart. Not in that house." The sun had just started to dip below the trees as Madison pulled into the driveway. The sky bruised purple and orange behind the crooked pines. The house seemed darker than before, like it was waiting for her. She didn't go inside right away. Instead, she sat in the car, hands trembling around the steering wheel, staring at the printed blueprints spread out on the passenger seat. That sealed room, it was real. She hadn't imagined it. And whatever had happened inside it, whatever, her mother wouldn't talk about. The town had erased it like chalk from a blackboard. She took a breath, then stepped out of the car. The house swallowed her whole. She walked straight to her mother's room. Helen was awake, her skin ashen, eyes sunken and distant. Madison held up the blueprint. Who was the boy? Her mother didn't answer. Madison's voice cracked. Was he a foster kid? A neighbor? What happened in that room? Helen's breathing hitched. She turned her face away. "Tell me," Madison said, louder now. "Tell me what you're hiding." "Because I am losing my mind, Mom. I'm hearing things, seeing things, waking up covered in dirt. There is something wrong with this house, and I know." "You know what it is." Helen's hands shook. "I thought you were too young to remember," she whispered. "Remember what?" Helen's eyes locked on hers, and for a moment, Madison saw it pure, naked fear. "You were 5, Helen said. He was 6. His name was Corey. He was a foster placement. Temporary. Just until they found him a new home." Madison staggered. Back, blood roaring in her ears. "There was a boy." Helen nodded. "You played together every day. But something happened. Something changed." Madison's breath caught in her throat. "Changed how?" "You started saying he was hiding things, that he lied, that he hurt your dolls. You started drawing things, dark things, and then—" Helen closed her eyes. "One morning we found the basement door open, and the trapdoor had been sealed shut, like someone had poured concrete overnight. Madison couldn't move. We couldn't find him, not for days. And then the smell. Helen began to cry, softly, hopelessly. Told the sheriff it wasn't your fault. You were so little, Maddie. You didn't know what you were doing. Madison shook her head violently. No, that's not, I wouldn't have. You said he told you to do it, Helen said, barely audible. You said he whispered in your ear and told you the only way to make the voices stop was to bury him. The room spun. No, Madison gasped. That's not true. Helen nodded. You don't remember. They said you dissociated. Buried the memory to protect yourself. Madison backed into the hallway, chest heaving, heart pounding. So loud it hurt. She stumbled down the stairs, into the kitchen, into the dark. The house was silent until drip, dot, drip, dot, drip, dot. The sound echoed again from beneath the floorboards, dot, and then she heard it, dot, knocking, dot, from inside the basement wall. 3 slow, deliberate knocks, dot. She turned, eyes wide, and a child's voice whispered through the vent. You promised you wouldn't leave me. Madison sat on the basement floor, her back pressed to the cold wall, arms wrapped tight around her knees. She had the flashlight clutched in one hand, and her mother's words echoing in her skull like a siren. You said he told you to do it. She didn't believe it. She couldn't. She was 5. 5-year-olds don't bury other children alive. They don't mix concrete. They don't seal trapdoors. But what if she hadn't done it alone? What if someone helped her? What if someone made her? She ran her fingers along the floor until they found the edge of that hidden square again. The trapdoor. Beneath the fake concrete. Beneath the place she kept waking up from without memory. She grabbed the crowbar she'd taken from the tool shed earlier that evening, dot. Her hands shook, but something inside her had cracked split wide open. She had to know. She had to see what was down there, dot, with a scream. She slammed the crowbar into the corner of the cement seam, dot, once, dot, twice, dot. The brittle layer broke apart like a scab. Beneath it rotted wood, mold, darkness. She pried harder, the boards groaning under her weight, until at last the trapdoor gave way and a foul stench spilled out like a curse. Madison gagged, pulling her shirt over her mouth, and she shined the light down into the hole, dot. It was barely 4 feet deep, lined with brick, and at the bottom, curled in the fetal position, was a body, or what was left of one. Bones, a child's skull. Threads of what once might have been Spider-Man, pajamas. But that wasn't what made her scream, dot. It was the message scrawled on the inside wall of the pit. Words scratched into brick with frantic, bleeding hands. Maddie said I could come back. Out. She stumbled back, bile rising in her throat, tears streaming down her face. No, she whispered. No, no, no. Behind her, the flashlight flickered, then died. She was plunged into darkness, dot, and then dash footsteps, dot, tiny, barefoot footsteps. Padding across the concrete floor, dot, closer, dot, double quotes. Why did you lie to me, Maddie? The voice was right beside her, dot, cold breath against her ear. You said we were friends. She turned and swung the crowbar in blind panic. It hit nothing but air. She scrambled up the stairs, slipping, gasping, her hands clawing at the rail. She threw open the door, slammed it shut behind her, and locked it, dot, then collapsed to the kitchen floor, sobbing. She didn't sleep that night. She sat at the kitchen table until dawn, every light in the house turned on. The blueprint beside her, the crowbar covered in dust, her hands stained with dirt and something darker, and as the first light of morning broke over the trees, the doorbell rang, dot. She opened it to find a man standing there, late 40s, tall, thin, tired eyes. Madison. Pryor? She nodded, dazed. He reached into his coat, pulled out a badge. Detective Roland Keene. I'm reopening a cold case involving a missing foster. Child from 1998, I need to ask you a few questions. She couldn't speak. He studied her face. Lived here when it happened. You were the last person to see Corey Winters alive. Madison sat across from Detective Keene at the kitchen table, her fingers trembling around a cup of untouched tea. The house felt heavier now, like every wall had shifted slightly inward. Like it was watching them. Keene had laid out a thin folder. Inside, photos, a name tag from a school backpack, a drawing, a missing poster with a boy's face round, smiling, hopeful. Corey W.C. since July 1998. Last seen, 1313 Rose Hollow Lane. Her name was in the report. Madison Pryor, age 5, housemate. No formal charges, the paper read. Child. Determined to be unreliable witness. Statements inconsistent. Possible trauma-induced memory distortion. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice hollow. I don't remember him. Keene studied her. That's not uncommon, especially at your age. But something brought you back to that basement. Something brought that memory up. It's like... The mind knew. The guilt was still there. She flinched. I didn't kill him. I believe you, Keene said gently. But someone did, or let it happen. And I think your mother knew more than she told the police. Madison's breath. Caught. She said I was talking to voices. She said I sealed him in. That I blamed him for something. Keene leaned forward. Do you remember anyone else in the house? Madison paused. No, just me and Corey, and my mom. He nodded slowly. Because there was a caseworker, Rachel Dobbins, assigned to your mother. She reported concerning behavior in the house. Side Helen was increasingly unstable, not bathing, not feeding the children properly. But the report got buried. Madison stared at him. She said Helen locked Corey in the basement once. For stealing food. Madison felt her skin crawl. No, she said I did it. That I pushed him down there. That I heard voices, Keene said, nodding. Did you know your mother was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder 10 years ago? Mixed type mood and psychotic symptoms. Severe paranoia. She was medicated briefly, but refused. Long-term care. Madison shook her head slowly. No. No, she never told me that. She also had a history of shared psychotic disorder folie, due with her sister in the 80s. They lived in a similar old house, said the walls were speaking to them. That children were hiding in the crawl spaces. Madison's heart was pounding now. She made me believe I did it. Keene was quiet. She said I buried him, Madison whispered. But she was the one. She blamed me. She let me grow up thinking I was broken, dangerous. She may have believed it, Keene said softly. Psychosis doesn't just make you lie. It makes you certain of the lie. Madison stood suddenly. I want to open the crawl space. Officially. I want you to see it. I want someone else to see it. Keene rose too. Where is it? She led him downstairs. The basement was colder than ever. The smell of rot still thick in the air. She pointed to the pit. I found bones, clothes, a message on the wall. Keene knelt beside it, shining his flashlight into the darkness. But then he frowned. There's nothing here. Madison blinked. What? He stood, brushing off his hands. There's no body, no clothes, no message. It's just dirt and stone. Madison dropped to her knees, dug with her hands. Nothing, just earth. No, it was here. I saw it. Keene pulled her back gently. I believe you thought you saw it, Madison, but your mother's illness, her beliefs, they shaped yours. It's not your fault, but your mind has been holding on to something that might not be real. She stared into the empty pit, throat raw, tears burning her eyes. But I heard him. I know, Keene said. But sometimes the brain creates ghosts to explain pain. As they left the basement, a soft creak echoed behind them. The trapdoor, still open. And beneath it, a single word scratched in fresh red crayon. Liar. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and dying flowers. Madison sat at her mother's bedside, the fluorescent lights above humming like wasps. Helen Pryor was slipping. Her hands were bones. Her breath rattled in her chest. But her eyes, those wild, hollow eyes, were still awake. I want to know the truth, Madison said softly. Helen didn't answer. I went to the basement, she continued. I found the room. I thought I found Corey. I thought I remembered. But when I brought someone else, it was gone. Nothing was there. Helen's lips twitched. I remembered a body, Mom, Madison whispered. Bones, pajamas, a message, but there was nothing. Helen turned her face slowly toward her daughter. Her voice came out like the wind slipping through a crack in the Yase wall. He came back, didn't he? Madison froze. Who? Helen smiled, a faint, broken thing. He never left. Madison leaned forward, trying to keep her voice steady. Was it you? Did you lock him down there? Did you blame me because you couldn't face what you'd done? Helen didn't blink. He was a bad boy, Maddie. He did things. He hurt you. Madison's eyes filled with tears. I don't remember him hurting me. You were so little. You don't remember a lot of things. Madison's breath caught. Then tell me. Please, just tell me what really happened. Helen coughed. Then, with effort, she said, You screamed that night. I ran downstairs and found the trapdoor open. And you were sitting there, beside it, covered in dirt. You said, I put him back, Mommy. Now the house will be quiet again. Madison swallowed hard. Her chest felt hollow. So you thought I did it? Helen closed her eyes. I didn't know what else to think. You weren't like other kids. You had episodes. You used to say there were voices in the walls, that he made them come. That, if he went away, the voices would stop. Madison's body went cold. He? Helen's voice cracked. Your father. Madison recoiled like she'd been slapped. What? Helen opened her eyes. He never left that night, Maddie. Not really. He was sick, violent. We both know what he did to you. Corey saw it. He threatened to tell. And then he was gone. And your father. Your father disappeared the same night. Madison shook her head violently. No, that's not. He left us. You said he ran off. I said what I had to, Helen whispered, to protect you. Madison stared, unblinking. Her voice dropped to a whisper. The bones, the body I saw in the pit. Helen said nothing. The world tilted. It wasn't Corey, Madison breathed. It was him. Helen nodded. You don't remember burying him. And I didn't stop you. The silence was suffocating. You helped me seal the trapdoor, Madison whispered. I was scared. Helen said, tears sliding down her cheeks. You were broken. I was broken. And no one would believe us. Madison stood, her legs trembling beneath her. You let me believe I killed a little boy. For 25 years. Helen looked at her daughter for the last time. It was easier. Then the truth. Madison turned and walked out of the room, her hands shaking, her mind unraveling. Outside, the wind rustled the trees. And back home, behind the sealed trapdoor, something shifted in the dirt. A child's voice whispered one last time. You forgot about me too. Maddie.